In my hand, I hold the staff report.
So earlier this month, some concept artist, and I use that term extremely loosely here, took some duct tape, a banana, and taped it to a wall. So what? Well, this concept artist, quote unquote, called it art. And of course, it ended up in an art gallery. And if that's not enough, going so far as to claim this art concept took him almost a year to come up with. What? You mean you're trying to tell me that this artist and the concept that came along with it took almost an entire year to execute? 1 year to take a banana and tape it to a wall. It took a year to come up with that idea and concept. You can go fuck yourself. And if that madness isn't enough, someone paid $120,000 for the duct taped banana art concept. Art, whatever the fuck it's called. How much cash do you have that you can drop 6 digits on something you can make at home for less than $4? I mean, what? That might even be less than that. I'm assuming duct tape's around $3 to $3.50. And bananas are 60 cents a pound, so we're right in that $4 range here. And if that madness makes your head spin, another so-called artist went into the art gallery where this duct tape banana art concept existed, sauntered past the velvet ropes because at this point the whole thing had gotten so much media attention, ripped the duct tape ripped the duct tape off the banana, and to a stunned crowd of pompous, rich, hipster doofus fucks, ate the yellow piece of fruit, was taken away by security, and wasn't even charged with a crime. And this is an external parallel metaphor for the impeachment fiasco we have going on in Washington. Oh yes, I know you've been waiting to hear what I've had to say about this subject, but I think it's obvious what my opinion is on impeachment when it comes to Donald Trump. So I'm going to zoom out and discuss the matter on more of a broader scope. So it's obvious that this is a hit job on the president. It doesn't really need to be said beyond that. The Democrat leadership doesn't have any faith in the current crop of presidential candidates. So the overall strategy is to bloody him up before the election to give the eventual Democrat nominee something to run against the president on. And even as we speak, they're already trying to delegitimize the process going on in the Senate because they're basically trying to argue that what Trump did with Ukraine was interfere with a U.S. election. Therefore, he can't even be trusted to run in this next general election. Therefore, if he gets elected again, it's an illegitimate presidency. Politics is dirty. But I want to talk about something else. Another situation that can arise from this impeachment and the petty politics inside the Beltway. So the Democrats want to impeach Trump, knowing that it's all for naught with him being acquitted in the Senate. But it's worth it if he doesn't get reelected. Okay. Let's say that the Democrats get their wish and a Democrat wins the White House. It doesn't really matter who wins in that scenario, or in this scenario we're speaking of specifically, other than the fact that it's a Democrat. So if you're one of these Bernie Bros, Warren Warriors, or the Third Reich, or Joe Biden's Bridge and Pinochle Club, no one is doubting your tribe leader's ability to run a shitty campaign. I just want to throw that out there right now. So let's just say a Democrat wins the White House. But the overreach in impeachment leads the Republicans to taking back the House in 2020 and still barely holding on to the Senate. What do you think the next move is going to be? Other than making fun of a neutered lame duck president. We all know that Washington, especially Congress, is a very, very petty place. So I could open up a whole new side discussion on petty politics in Washington, D.C., dating back to George Bush being handed the election in 2000 by the Supreme Court. But the short end of it is that the left hasn't forgiven the Supreme Court for doing so. And again in 2004, when the Electoral College failed the Democrats, which they still whine about to this day, there was this mistreatment of Obama after his election, which continued into his second election. So when Trump got elected, it was kind of odd to me to see Democrats pivot and turn into the very thing they called evil from 2008 to 2016. And then there's Merrick Garland. Oh boy, did the Democrats get screwed on that one. And they've been waiting in the wings to get revenge on Cocaine Mitch for screwing them out of that one judicial nominee seat. And, that revenge is a two-way street. Let's go back to our imaginary world where a Democrat beats Trump in 2020 and the House goes to the Republicans due to the Democrats overreaching and letting the Democrat factions on the fringes hijack the party. Whoever wins the White House will be walking on ice for their whole term. Sure, the press will act like the moat in front of the castle. The Democrat bureaucrats embedded into the intelligence agency will stop leaking. But if that White House Democrat executive, farts or stares at the Freedom Tree the wrong way, the Speaker of the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees will be the first to write up multiple broad-reaching articles of impeachment. And is this how we Americans want our upper echelons of our federal government working? Are we going to devolve into a nation of petty politics being driven by a bunch of rich baby boomer geriatrics who are unable to let go of the little power that they have? I have a hard time telling the difference between a retirement home and a Capitol building. I mean, maybe they are the same thing, only one of them is making decisions that affects you directly. Anyway, all this pettiness creates stalemates. It creates laws that don't get passed because each party wants to win. Congress can't agree on a spending bill, etc., etc., etc. So here we have one party acting out of desperation because they lost the election 3 years ago and can't fathom losing again. It's extremely petty and only bolsters other bigger nations like China, puffs up Russia, and gives the world the perception that the United States is in turmoil. This whole impeachment and re-election fiasco reminds me of something. It's like someone took a banana, taped it to a wall, calls it art, sells it for $120K, only for it to be eaten by a guy who claims to be a performance artist. And in the end, after all that media coverage, all that drama, the guy wasn't even charged with the crime or even found guilty in the end. By the way, it was also noted that the performance artist was just creating a stunt. So it looks like there probably wasn't a buyer. If there was, the buyer was in on it too. The whole thing was a media stunt. I think everyone sees where I'm going with that. All right, well, I wanted to talk some Chicago Bears, but we are out of time, and I got no more room in the staff report for anything else. So we'll get to that disastrous debacle of what should be a relegated football team next week.
We're trying to get a feel for how people spend their day.
The staff